Welcome to Imagine Blue. Right now, we are anticipating the next big Marvel movie, which is Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah, I'm really anticipating this one.
Yes. Wanda has a very interesting line in the trailers. Basically, she says, when you break the rules, talking to Doctor Strange, of course, when you break the rules, you're a hero. When I do it, I'm the villain. That doesn't seem fair. And for me, the way that I understand this quote basically is as a reference to both of these characters are very powerful characters who have done a lot to mess with reality in many different ways. Most significantly, we are aware of Wanda messing with an entire town of people in the WandaVision series. And more recently, we have Doctor Strange messing with reality in Spider-Man No Way Home, essentially breaking reality and bringing all of these different characters into the MCU.
Mm-hmm. So the question is like, do we think that statement is true or not?
Does Wanda have a point? With Wanda,
no.
Well, I'm just gonna be honest, because with me personally, I was very critical of Wanda at the end of WandaVision. Talking about how I was very disappointed with how the show essentially treated her character by almost not addressing the fact that she imprisoned an entire town and tortured them for her own personal
gain.
Not gain necessarily, but comfort, her own personal comfort.
Well, it's technically gain because it's not like personal gain doesn't have to be something dark. It's just like it's basically your own personal pleasure.
Yeah,
that's the best.
Yeah, that's the way of putting it. So I was very critical of her in that. And then you go to Spider-Man No Way Home, where Doctor Strange, arguably through some very how would you describe it?
Very, very negligent magic.
Exactly. Very negligent behavior.
Very stupid.
Exactly. He causes
irresponsible.
An entire problem, a breakdown of reality, and then has to like struggle to put it back together at the end. But we loved it because we got to see Tobey Maguire again.
Let's to be honest, let's this is why I disagree with the whole Wanda being more like, is it fair? Like I think it is fair that we do criticize Wanda as opposed to Doctor Strange. And if we're comparing to the No Way Home incident, I don't know if there might be other incidents, but if we're gonna say the No Way Home incidents, here's my several reasons. First reason we have to think of is motive, right? What's the motive behind why he was doing it? His motive is automatically trying to help Peter, which is considered altruistic, right? It's not like he's trying to get so much of a personal gain from it. It was just like he's trying to do a person a favor. So that's number one. Number two, we have to take into consideration when stuff was going wrong, he wanted to fix it. Wanda, I mean, you can make the argument she didn't know it was her fault, but eventually she kind of didn't care about fixing it. Yeah. He was automatically like, I want to fix this. This is wrong. Let's do this. And then Peter obviously was going against him.
Yeah.
So that's that aspect. And then finally, the last of it all is that in theory, I mean, we don't know what's going to happen in this new movie. Maybe things change. But in theory, he doesn't even remember doing it. So in the eyes of the witness, we can kind of get in his side and understand why we get why he's doing it, number one, and number two, why we don't criticize as much as Wanda, where we figure out once she realizes that she is responsible, she's still like, oh, I don't care, I still want my family. So also I want viewers to know that we're fully aware that it's just a trailer and it might not even show up in the movie, and it might not even be talking about the things that we're talking about right now. It could be completely different.
Yeah.
But based on the context of what we have at this moment before the movie, this is just our best guess and our opinions on the matter. And number two, I agree with you completely.
Yeah.
But then, okay, so you have an argument, right, that hey, even if you accidentally drive your car and crash into a child, you weren't intending to do that, and you might immediately want to fix the problem as soon as it happens, but you still did something extremely horrible.
Yeah.
So if does that come into play? Like, are we letting Doctor Strange off a little bit too much?
Yeah. I don't think, again, this is a very interesting argument because this is sort of like, I guess we're kind of debating within morality of like what we consider good and not good. And like, philosophically speaking, we can all just assume that in theory, and no action is considered good, and it's all perception, right? But then the problem there is like, if we go on that argument, then what makes Wanda different from any other villain? What makes the idea that
what does make Wanda
Avengers? What makes the idea that the Avengers stop Thanos is a good thing? Like, it's the problem with that argument is we open a whole can of worms. So what we want to do with this argument, and especially because we're going towards why the people themselves are agreeing, like why the community or does not agree so far with Wanda's opinion, is why we're trying to explore that answer, why the perception, and based off that, it goes based off what benefits, what we see, or what benefits our humanity and society. And in this context with Doctor Strange, even in the context where it's like you may not intend it to hurt a kid, or a kid gets hurt from the actions you do, at the end of the day, how it's being portrayed, how the perception, how the person reacts towards it, that is what we look at, right? Because if Wanda was more remorseful for what she did to her people, or the people that were in the town, would probably have a different opinion. We would be like, oh, it was screwed up what she did, but at least she kind of saw it as like, this is screwed up, I want to change it. Mm-hmm. As opposed to her being like, well, screw that, I want my family, I'm gonna do all this and not care. That's the reason why we're getting mad at her. It has nothing to do with the action. The action itself, yeah, both actions are problematic, but it's really how the characters took it is why we have a different perception.
And it's hard for me to believe that statement actually deals with those things, because it's like, what was the exact statement? It was something along the lines of,
you break the rules, you're a hero. I break the rules, I'm a villain.
Yeah, it has to, in my mind, it has to relate to them doing something good for the sake of good and still breaking the rules. Because like, I break the rules to do something bad and I'm a villain. You do something good to break the rules and you're good, obviously,
but it's not considered bad. No, I mean, see, this is an aspect.
It is totally bad. What Wanda did is completely bad.
I agree with you. Yeah. I agree with you.
Yeah.
But honestly, and I'm sure people in the comments will let us know. I've talked to a lot of people who support Wanda fully.
That makes no sense.
I've talked to a lot of people who feel that because Wanda was doing it to for the relationship, for the love that she had for Vision, and for her children, she's justified.
What children? She didn't have children previously. She sort of made them. Like what?
There are people who believe that.
Yeah,
that's the case.
See, people will believe anything. Okay?
Yeah, yes.
That's just dumb.
It's hard. I know what you're going through, Scott, but it's like it goes back to values, right? Because when it comes down to, in a philosophical standpoint, keyword philosophical, when we look at morality, at the end of the day, it comes back to values, right? It comes back down to, do you think this is worth in society? Does this benefit society more? And and from those people's standpoint, they value family, so they understand the idea of like, doing what you can to bring your family.
But that's okay, sure. I can get their opinions, but like from the standpoint of us judging their opinions, it's sort of like them projecting themselves onto the character, while you have to try to be as objective as possible, like as if we were the jury, like.
Yeah, but even then, like, we are technically, the argument goes in, we're kind of projecting our opinions based off
how we are literally looking at Wanda, like,
exactly,
imprison these towns of people. Exactly. How is that us projecting?
We are, but that goes back to based off our culture, though, because think about it, if we weren't brought up in a culture where we believe that this is more morally
that
right,
imprisonment is wrong.
Yeah, I mean context.
To be fair, one of the lines in WandaVision that irked me to no end was when I forgot her name, the agent says to Wanda, they'll never understand what you sacrificed for them. And it's like the fact of the matter is that there are people who actually were so wrapped up, I think, and it's intentionally so. Like the story was meant to do that. It was well written, series, and it did what it was supposed to do to make us feel for Wanda, and her relationship with Vision. And so they get so wrapped up in that relationship that they're like, oh, she sacrificed her love, and nobody's ever going to be able to understand what it means to sacrifice one's true love. But the fact of the matter is that she tortured these people.
Yeah.
So it's like you're never gonna know what they they're never gonna know what you sacrificed. You don't know what they sacrificed, so that you can have this little imaginary.
I mean, again,
world
to play in the beginning, and for a while she wasn't aware of it. So there is a level of like ignorance in it. But again, at some point she was aware of it, and even at the ending, like it seemed like she had no. So. At some point, this is why we agree with Doctor Strange as opposed to
okay.
Wanda.
I'm not gonna go
for the Doctor Strange thing. Sorry, I wanted to mention this earlier, but for the Doctor Strange thing, he could be that line can also refer to the fact that he used a time stone plenty of times to attempt to save the world. So because that's technically breaking the rules as well, according to the first movie.
I mean,
did he? I mean, I guess he used
it
with
for
Thanos.
Dormammu
was
especially.
the big one.
He did,
but that one didn't.
Timeline.
That one didn't like cause any problems.
Well, technically, it's against the rules. That's the point, right?
Sure.
That's
sure.
The whole argument is like you're breaking the rules, but you're a hero. I break the rules. I'm a villain.
Right, but then there are other instances where he did break the rules and it caused problems.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking. I mean, yeah.
But again, his motive is also always altruistic.
But that's the thing. It's like I'm not on Doctor Strange's side either. I think he's been, like we mentioned before, he's been very irresponsible in a lot of different things, and then most egregiously with No Way Home.
I just think that's because they had to make the plot that way.
But I mean, if they address it in this way, I think that's good. I think that they should call into question his actions, and I think a lot of what we see in the trailer from
wait, you guys watched the TV animated ones too, right?
I saw some of them.
I saw some of it.
Did you watch the Doctor Strange one?
Yeah,
I did.
Okay, so he's essentially trying to break the rules to save his lover.
Right.
So that's more similar to Wanda's case.
Exactly.
Okay, if we're gonna compare it to that, if we want to use that as an argument, compare it to that situation, and then with WandaVision, that's an interesting argument.
But that's they're basically doing the same thing in that situation.
Exactly.
Okay, in that situation, I guess that's a question of which one is more.
But in that case, I don't see him as a hero at all. I see him as a complete lunatic who's basically destroyed his own world so he can try to save one person.
Yeah. But as I was saying, referring to the actions of Strange, what we see in the trailer, he's being imprisoned by Mordu, who there's a lot of references to like your actions can't go unpunished now. Like obviously he's been doing a lot and people are kind of getting angry with how he's been repeatedly breaking the rules and how he's been repeatedly irresponsible with his use of magic, and so I'm sure that I'm glad that they're addressing it, because I personally think that if we're going to criticize Wanda, we should also be willing to criticize Doctor Strange.
That's fair. Yeah, I think any hero should be criticized.
Yeah, and I think
you can't just say, okay, let's just criticize every hero.
I mean,
for the sake of it.
I think you
have to look at a hero's actions and then decide whether or not it's wrong or right.
His actions
having
are
a blanket
negligent
statement like
and
that. Oh, yes, okay. But you have to talk about which action. You can't just be like, okay, yes, every hero does something wrong. Maybe they do, but like until you look at that specific action, I feel like making a generalization like that is just not a good idea.
It's not necessarily a generalization when we're talking about Doctor Strange, because I think with Doctor Strange, the specific, let's just stick with No Way Home. The way that he we're all in agreement that he was being irresponsible with how he all of a sudden decided to make this spell that without fully explaining it to Peter so that he knew what he was getting himself into, and he was just willing to mess with reality on a whim almost just to like help a kid help his friends out. So we can all agree that he was being extremely irresponsible in that case. I think that when we're talking about Doctor Strange, he hasn't really demonstrated any remorse for his irresponsible actions. I think that's a big issue. Like in the same way that Wanda is pretty much sticking to, I'm gonna save my family no matter what, no matter who gets hurt. Doctor Strange, even though we've seen him repeatedly kind of be irresponsible, he always has this air of arrogance where he's better than a lot of the people around him, and he doesn't really seem to understand the weight of his actions and how he's been irresponsible in the past. And so I think with that, his character has room to grow, and if we deal with the consequences of his irresponsibility in this film, that will be a great opportunity for his character to grow.
I'm sure they have to.
Yeah,
But
I totally agree with you on that part. But as far as Scott's thing with the whole, should there be criticism for every hero? I mean, I don't know what your assumption by that, but when I think of criticism, I'm thinking just in terms of if their actions has consequences, should we put liability on them? And I think
you mean accountability.
Accountability. There you go. Accountability. Better word.
Yeah, of course. Of course, every hero should have accountability. But criticism is completely different from accountability, in my opinion. Criticism is just someone judging another person for whatever they're doing, whether it's good or bad. And then accountability is if you do something bad, then you get a punishment for it.
But I guess criticism, like, that depends. See, this is hard because, like,
what if you have a hero who literally spends 24 hours awake because of his powers, saving lives?
Yeah.
How are you gonna criticize that person?
I mean, the criticism could be how he saves lives.
Yeah.
'Cause
Okay,
maybe
he
his
doesn't
approach-
hurt a single person at all. He
Okay,
just saves
then
lives.
you're doing a good
Net
job.
positive completely. Doesn't need to
There's
eat because of his
no
powers.
way he cannot hurt that person.
Dude,
No,
a
there's
superhero
no-
world,
no,
there's no
to
way
be-
there's one person
there's
that
no
exists
way
like
he's
that.
not gonna
if
get
he's
hurt.
if he's like the perfect superhero and he does everything right, then great. He's
Okay,
the perfect
Exactly.
superhero.
I mean,
That's
okay.
what I'm talking about.
Okay, I mean, in that case, but the problem is there's no such thing as a hero like that.
Well, there's no such thing as
Or those
Superman
heroes-
or Batman or anything
no,
of those
or those
either.
heroes get boring and we
Exactly.
There's no such thing as that. So and that's the question here. The question is always this question of like, what is the like, how much is it like how much the saving lives is worth the consequences, or how much it's always a big question of that. It's a matter. That's why when I look at it as a like, it's not really, in my opinion, a battle between good versus evil, but a matter between what's the lesser evil. Like, what's the bigger problem do you want? Do you want the problem where this old lady is dead because some terrible accident happened to her, or do you want the problem where she's alive but her bones are crushed? Which one's worse? There's still problems, but which one's worse? And that's where these kind of debates kind of come from. So
Yeah.
I think when it comes to that, yeah, you can have criticism in it. Now, again, what we lean on depends on our own bias. Like, personally, to me, again, the old lady having her arms crushed is still better her be alive than, completely dead. But maybe that old lady preferred death. So it's a very interesting. That's what I mean where it comes off like that.
Yeah, I think that we will definitely have a lot of these questions answered in the movie once we see it. Hopefully they treat it well.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you have any,
I almost feel like a guaranteed it's not referring to exactly what we're talking about. There's going to be some reveal in the movie that reveals a lot more context.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Yeah.
I
feel
that happening.
that
And
way.
we have to do a part 2 of this.
Yeah, we'll definitely come back and revisit this.
I mean, this
discussion.
movie looks like it's going to be great.
Yeah.
And I liked Doctor Strange 1. I'm like one of the few people who did. So
Really? People hate the movie?
or
I don't hate it. I just didn't care for it.
Oh, okay, I see.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that people hated it. I'm just saying people didn't really like it as much as I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And definitely let us know if you have any anticipatory predictions for this movie upcoming. Definitely let us know what your thoughts are on the discussion that we had here. If you side with Wanda, if you side with Doctor Strange, or if you want both of them to be thrown
all
away in the
should be
trash
punished.
can.
Let's not go that far.
Let us know in the
Punishment
comments.
should fit the crime.
Yeah, let us know in the comments down below, and we'll see you later. Peace.
Peace.
Peace.